The Magnificent Seven on 4K Blu-ray. So just like it says in the opening credits, this movie was inspired by Seven Samurai from 1954, Akira Kurosawa. This one. Also, there's been some other movies that are complete ripoffs or inspired by Seven Samurai / Magnificent Seven. They are as follows: A Bug's Life, Three Amigos, of which I have an interesting collector's item from. My DVD copy of this says rated R on the back. Do you see that? This movie is rated PG. So there you go. Let me know if you've ever heard of that. And lastly, Star Wars The Clone Wars TV show, Season 2, Episode 17, Bounty Hunters, is actually an exact Seven Samurai episode. Here's a fun little artwork in there. A little tribute to Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Anyway, so Seven Samurai / Magnificent Seven have definitely inspired a lot of movies and TV going forward. All right, so speaking of the 4K, I'd say the coloring looks a lot better than previous Blu-rays, but also the grain structure, I don't know if you can see that in the sky. Well, it gets blown out a little bit. But the grain structure is very, very tingly and moving, which means that they haven't tried to scrub it out, so there hasn't been digital noise reduction. The only thing I could detect as far as flaws go on the actual print on the restoration is there's some occasional dirt specks, and then there's one shot where there's like a little hair that must have been on the camera. But other than that, I didn't find a single film scratch. That's those vertical lines. I didn't see any of that. So it's a very good looking restoration. So the Dolby Vision did look really good, and the colors were great. It's not like a super colorful movie. Like there's a lot of browns and greens and just earth tones because they're out in the middle of nowhere. But look at this guy's blue eyes. My goodness. So what colors there are stood out really well with the Dolby Vision. The only thing that I found to be distracting at all with the ultra high definition was when there's going to be a scene change. So inside of a scene, when there's the quick cuts, the grain doesn't change. But when there's going to be an actual like scene transition, it suddenly just gets super grainy, probably because it's 2 layers of film on top of each other. And then it transfers to the new scene, and then it's a little grainy for a minute, and then it goes back to the normal consistent grain level. So that was a little distracting. I know I've seen this like maybe a long time ago, but it was basically like watching it for the first time here. So that was a little distracting because once you see that grain show up, I was like, oh, okay, there's a layer of film there. Now we're going to go to another scene. So I was kind of looking for that. So it did distract me a little bit. But the restoration looked good. The detail's incredible. The skin tones look good. It just looked really, really good. And a lot of the shots were those big wide shots where everything's in focus for a huge amount of the movie. And it looks really, really good in 4K, where you can see the detail and everything that was in focus in the camera, you can now see. So like on the special features disc where it's lower resolution or like DVD quality, it looks terrible. And on such a beautiful movie with such like wide vistas and wide shots where everything's in focus, it almost demands to be seen in 4K, where you can see the detail of everything that the cinematographer had in focus. So for that, I think the 4K upgrade is definitely worth it. And then right here, Steve McQueen, boop, he actually says a cool line that I thought was really interesting.
Never rode shotgun in a hearse before.
Get it? He's actually riding shotgun. So he's holding a shotgun and sitting next to the driver. So that's where the saying comes from, riding shotgun. So I saw that and I was just like, yay, that's cool. All right, so saddle up, because we are going to go through this movie, and I'm going to just point stuff out that I think, and stuff I thought, and stuff I thunk, stuff I think you should thought and think. Okay, so back at the beginning, when the bad guy's in the town, and the little farmer guy holds up his scythe, and he's like, murder or death, and he's going to charge at him, and this guy shoots him. Really interesting thing, his pistol has a little retention strap that goes over it, and actually a lot of the people in this movie have it. It's just like a little leather loop that goes over it, and if you look really close right here, you can see him take the strap off to be able to get his gun out. You see that? Here it is again. All right. There's a better view of it. You can see it where it's still on right there. Okay, then look right in that same spot. There he goes. There you go. So there it is, a little leather loop. So I think that's cool little retention for their guns. So they're not just popping out of their super baggy holsters. So just a cool detail I saw. I'm used to guns going into a hard case and clicking, and then you have to push a button to pull it out, or there's a loop that goes over the top like a big plastic loop. So it was cool to see Old West style. This beautiful shot right here. The reflecting water in the background. Looks so good. So occasionally there's shots like that that just really are just super wow in 4K, just with the incredible amount of depth and detail and color, and very good looking disc here. That's what this old guy says here.
We know how to plant and grow. We don't know how to kill. Then learn or die.
Yeah, that is awesome. So the guys are talking to the village elder about what they should do, and he's like, here's some stuff, you need to go buy guns. And you heard him right there where they're like, we don't know how to use guns. And I love that line that he says, learn or die. And it's like, oh, that's very real. Kind of applicable too. Oh yeah, I realized at the beginning when I was talking about movies inspired by this movie, or movies inspired by Seven Samurai, that I didn't even bring up the remake of Magnificent Seven. That's because it sucks and it has no soul and it's completely forgettable. So that's all I'll say about the remake of Magnificent Seven. I mean, I enjoyed watching it, but it just had no staying power. Completely forgettable. Whereas this movie, I feel like this movie is going to stay with me for my entire life. And I've only shown about 20 minutes of it to my son, and he was really, really into it. And I feel like once we get to the end of this, that I think it'll probably stay with him for his entire life. And so I think this is a good movie with staying power, whereas the remake was absolutely not. It was completely forgettable. This awesome profile shot here. Looks so good. So many good shots in this movie. And one of the things I love the most in movies is gun damage. When they do it accurate for the actual gun, or close to accurate. So this shotgun, when he shoots through the window when someone's shooting at them on the way up and it makes a big old hole, I'm just like, yes! I love when it's semi-accurate and believable. Speaking of which, when the scythe guy was running towards the bad guy and he got shot, my son's like, this is my 7-year-old, he's like, there's no blood. And I was like, yeah, well, they're trying to make it so other younger people can watch it. Anyway, and then he talked about how he's like, I know how they do blood in movies. He's like, it's just makeup. And I'm like, yep, it's fake. So that was a very interesting conversation that we had. So I wonder if, not that I want this to be the case, but I wonder if it'll be easier for him to see blood in movies without being like scared and disturbed, because he's just like, it's fake. All right, here's an awesome classic Western shot, but with the twist of this guy's little switchblade. Right there, yes! That's so cool. Such a cool shot. I love the themes that this movie has of like the young and brash and inexperienced versus inexperienced, and how many times you just see like older guys with like eye wrinkles just sitting there looking at a young brash person, just like, all right, they're gonna make a fool of themselves, let's just watch it. I think that's cool how many times you see that happen in this movie. It really leans towards showing the more experienced people that are more patient and calm and aren't as quick to action, but when they do take action, they do it very well, whereas he still does it a little bit messy, and we'll see later when he almost gets himself killed like an idiot. But yeah, I love that theme in this movie where you have the young brash guy and then you have the older people with wisdom, that they just keep their cool. Love it. All right, and one of the absolute best parts of this entire movie is the music. There we go. Better pause it before I get copyright murdered. Anyway, this music is so good, and it's so quintessential Western, to the point where when I saw Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and all those quiet chase scenes, I was like, where is the hearty, awesome, actiony, peppy Western music? I just felt like that when I first saw that movie a long time ago, I just felt like it was missing the Western music that this movie has and the other Westerns have. Speaking of which, the soundtrack of this movie really, really reminds me of the 1942 ballet by Aaron Copland called Rodeo, specifically the song Hoedown. It's very, very similar, where it's like this peppy American West music where it just makes you want to like get on a horse and ride around and like dip your hands in cold water and put it on your face and then like shoot something with a revolver and then lay down and sleep with your cowboy hat on your face and maybe like eat beef jerky and beans around a fire or something. Anyway, this old Western music is really awesome, and it's a huge part of why this movie is so good in my mind. So, quick note on the detail of the 4K. On the Blu-ray or DVD, this scene does not look this good. Look at this tiny little guy way in the distance. Let me give you an example. So this particular TV is a 65-inch OLED, and this little guy is that big, and you can see it very clearly. Whereas on other discs or streaming, it's very crunchy right here. So this is a really good shot to see the pure strength of the 4K disc. All right, this scene was so cool, where you've got the Magnificent Seven all posted around the village during this big party, and the little kid comes and tells them that the bad guys are there. And I just loved watching all of these guys basically go on the alert and do all this, like communicating either like just with eye contact or like whispering, just this sneaky, like going from like alert relax to like high alert. Like right here, you can see this kid talks to him, then he talks to him, and then it's implied that he looks over at the guy in the tree right there, and then, so they're making eye contact right here, and then these two guys realize it, and they're keeping their cool. They're calm and collected and getting up. They're not just freaking out and running around. And you have cool scenes like this where they're whispering to each other, and they could have ADR'd the dialogue over that, but instead they just have each person go up and talk to the next person, and you can't hear what they're saying, but you can just see their faces, and then they're going on like prowler high alert mode. Anyway, the scene was so cool. These guys are awesome. Now you did see the younger guy, like he's really, really excited. So he's going on the alert and he's excited to get in the action. But I just love this scene, watching all these guys get ready to go. Such professionals. Oh man, this scene bugged me so bad when I saw it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid sucks so bad. Watch this. So one guy walks around and he blasts him. And he just turns and looks at the other guy like, what am I going to do? It's like, dude, you've got 6 bullets in there. Just keep going. Oh, I was very frustrated on that part. I was like, this kid's going to freaking die. He's a moron. All right, this part was very near and dear to my heart. The marksmanship training. It's something that I very much into. But I just loved all of their little teaching, trying to get these guys to shoulder the rifle. He even tells them to look from here to the target, which I was like, yes, that's awesome. Anyway, he gets really frustrated, and I can definitely relate to that. He's getting so annoyed that he won't squeeze the trigger.
You're milking the goal again. Instead, I get excited.
Listen.
Well, don't get excited. Now this time, squeeze. Slowly, but squeeze.
Look how upset he gets.
Squeeze! I'll tell you what. Don't shoot the gun. Take the gun like this, and you use it like a club. All right? Let go.
Oh, I could really relate to this part. Just telling people to squeeze the trigger instead of jerking the trigger. And getting frustrated. And then they're frustrated because they keep missing. And then you're frustrated because they can't just squeeze the trigger. So I really like this part, and I was laughing. Okay, so speaking of trigger squeeze, this is gonna look a little bit exaggerated, but if the idea is you put your finger on the trigger and just slowly squeeze back, right? So this will be like what it looks like to you. But what your trigger finger looks like is that you just slowly squeeze until it goes off. But what happens is if you jerk the trigger, so I'll show it here a little bit more exaggerated. So watch how I'm aiming and I jerk the trigger. So basically that's where you pull it like that because you're excited. Or if you're kind of leaning into it because you're afraid, you're going to push it that way. If I jerk the trigger, it's going to pull the bullet that way. So if I'm excited and I'm anticipating the kick, I'm basically going to be leaning into it, so the bullet's going to go that way. But if you look at it, so where I have it like this, and I'm going to pull the trigger but do it with a jerk, look at the front of the gun, see how it kind of pulls it to the right, versus if I just, here, I'll do it again. So versus if I just slowly squeeze the trigger like this, see how that didn't move? Anyway, so there's a reason that you squeeze the trigger. So I don't know if you could see that very clearly, but that's why you just pull or you slowly squeeze to the rear until the shot breaks instead of jerking the trigger. So it's very funny watching that guy get frustrated. I have been there. All right, here is another example of many in this movie where a shot just drops my jaw and I'm just like, whoa, looking at it. It's this long tracking shot following the lead bandito, boop, on his horse. And I was pretty much mouth agape during this whole part. Look at this thing. This is so cool. It's such a good looking shot. Then it continues right there. There you go. Just some good old Western photography. So great. All right, in any action movie, this is something that just warms my heart right here. I mean, Yul Brynner. Wow, look at that shot of Yul Brynner. What a man. Anyway, right here. Reloading. Love seeing it in any action movie. All right, so this conversation is actually pretty incredible, and I thought it was very touching. This is a very odd screenshot here, but Charles Bronson, this little kids just went up to him and told him to take them with him because he's leaving town, because they said they're ashamed to live there because their fathers are cowards, and then he gives this kid a whole bunch of spanks, and then he says some really cool stuff to them that I didn't think this movie was going to go there, but I thought was really beautiful.
Don't you ever say that again about your fathers, because they are not cowards. You think I'm brave because I carry a gun? Well, your fathers are much braver because they carry responsibility. And as nobody says they have to do this, they do it because they love you and because they want to.
So obviously I can't show that whole thing, but just his little speech right here, I thought was incredible. He just talks about how the dads love them and they're the brave ones going to work and being responsible. And you can tell that he's almost afraid of having that responsibility. And so he admires their dads for what they do. And so I really like that he kind of sets these kids straight that what their dads do is brave, even if it isn't in violence. So like I said, I think in my everything all at once, everything video, thing I love about movies is I love the action and adventure and the catharsis and the escapism, but I love when they bring it back and they just tell you, they're like, what you have is most important. Taking care of your family is most important. So I love when they do that. And this movie went there, and I was not expecting that with Charles Bronson right here after a crazy little kid spanking scene. So speaking of cool motivational, they're deciding if they're going to go back in the town or quit. Listen to this.
Come on, Lee. They want to get killed? Let them. Go ahead, Lee. You don't owe anything to anybody.
Right here.
Except to myself.
Yes. That is awesome. So I love when these movies make you want to like stand up and be brave and fight bad guys. And he realizes that he let himself down earlier in the movie, and so right now he has to prove to himself. Love it. All right, this is just another Steve McQueen being brilliant, or the movie directing being brilliant. I don't know. but mostly just the characterization in this movie being brilliant. First of all, this part is really cool because he's checking on his two pistols, which I just think is so cool. Revolvers are so cool. But watch what he does with his hands. This harkens back to a conversation he had with the other guy earlier, one of the townsfolk, about how he's afraid every time before he goes into a fight, and his hands always sweat. And then this is just perfect visual storytelling right here. So he gets the one gun ready, gets the other one ready. Look what he does. See that? Right before just total battle breaks out. But I love that. His hands are sweaty, he's wiping them on his shirt, and it just calls back to that conversation where, yeah, he's afraid right now, and he's about to go into a battle. And it just harkened back to that conversation where he's afraid and he's wiping the sweat off on his hands, but he's going to do it anyway. So this movie is about people being afraid and doing hard things anyway, and I love it. I mean, this is sad that this guy's dying, but I love that he's telling him, he's like, yep, you were right all along. There's tons and tons of gold. And he's just like, he dies with a smile on his face. Just thought that was some nice camaraderie there. Letting him die knowing that he was right. But he wasn't right. Look at this. Another heartwarming moment. Reloading. Yes. Okay, now here's this guy. He's going to finally prove himself to himself. And he actually does it in a really amazing way. So he's got his gun out, and he's ready to bust in there and get these guys, but look at what he does. It's like he has to prove to himself that he's brave, but also that he's still an amazing gunslinger. So what does he do? Puts it away, and... Yes! That was pretty dang heroic. And it was also ballsy because he puts his gun away and then does a quick draw once he busts in there. I think he proved it to himself. So I think, spoiler alert, when he dies, that I think he knows that he did the right thing. And did a good job at it, too.
A place like this. Why?
This is such an amazing Yul Brynner moment.
Why?
This guy's so perplexed to why the gunslinger came back. Yul Brynner just stares at him. It's so cool. He's just like, I don't have to give you an answer. I don't have to explain my morality to you. It's very clear that Yul Brynner's character seems to be morally, he's got some kind of a moral compass. But I just love how perplexed the bad guy is when he just, why did you come back? And he just sits and stares at him till he dies. That's so cool. However, I did think that the bad guy giving all their guns back once they went out of town was a little bit like a James Bond villain being like, here, I'm going to tie you up and have you getting lowered into these sharks, and I'm going to go out of the room. It was just a little bit stupid villainy, but the guy was just so sure, he just didn't believe that any human would do that. So it was like breaking his moral code. Anyway, I love that. He comes back. They come back anyway to defend the town, and it perplexes the bad guy, and he does not give him an answer. So one interesting thing that I thought about a lot of the good guys dying is that you don't see the shooter. A lot of these movies, they have the battle going on, and then they cut, and you see the shooter like, I'm going to get the good guy, and they shoot him, and the good guy goes down. But in this case, for multiple of them getting shot, it's just the battle going on, then you're looking at the good guy, and then all of a sudden they just get hit out of nowhere and fall down. So it's kind of just different filmmaking from other action movies where you usually see the shooter, then see them go down. Instead of now, you just see them all of a sudden go down. So this is the perfect bookend to Charles Bronson lecturing these kids about their fathers earlier in the movie, and it was very, very touching. So he's about to die, and what does he tell these kids right before he goes? It's beautiful.
See? So you see your fathers?
Makes them all look at their dads. See that? Love it. Love it. He's just trying to get them to be loyal to their dads and call out how brave they are. And then he makes them remember his name. It's pretty funny. All right, absolutely love this ending. Where the youngster comes back to get the girl, which we're all excited about. I always want a guy to get the girl in the movies. That seems to be like the ultimate catharsis in traditional movies. So look at this. He comes back, and what does he do? Takes his gun off, and what else? What else does he do? Oh, look how happy she is! Look, rolls up his sleeves.
The old man was right. Only the farmers won.
He's given up his gun, and he's going to be a farmer. He's going to marry that girl and have tons of babies and be a farmer. And that's a beautiful ending. Also, these two guys, I love their relationship. Where they meet together at the beginning during that awesome heroic hearse scene, and then here at the end. So it starts with 2, ends with 2. Love it. Okay, that's it. But I want to show you some westerns that I like in no particular order. Subscriber, good owner, recommended this to me. That was a blast. I have a review for that. Then, of course, Good, Bad, and the Ugly. For a few dollars more, actually, I haven't seen this one yet, so I'll probably be watching it and doing a first-time review. But I have seen this one and did a review for it, Fistful of Dollars. This one's kind of, I think this next one is purely a guilty pleasure type movie. American Outlaws. I don't know if you've seen that. Rango. Fievel Goes West, which I actually think uses the Aaron Copland music, that rodeo song that I talked about. And I think Back to the Future 3 counts as a western. Might be a sci-fi western, but I think it counts. And then I've always had a blast with this one. Actually, I think this is a Super Bit DVD. Yeah. Remember Super Bit DVDs? See that little silver thing right there? Boop. Silverado or Silverado. This one I actually just saw for the first time recently, and it was awesome. I had to look up what happened with Wyatt Earp's marital situation in real life, because the way the movie was made me curious. This movie, again, love it, but I remember when I first saw it, I just felt like it was missing the peppy Western music. And then this, have on DVD because I haven't imported it, because it's only on Blu-ray in other countries. What the heck? This should be on 4K anyway. That's a cool movie. And the TV show Briscoe County Jr. with Bruce Campbell. Anyway, so that is my long review and analysis and having fun with Magnificent Seven. Here it is, right here on Blu-ray from Shout Select, right there. So this was awesome. Special features are okay. I haven't really done the commentaries yet, but absolutely beautiful transfer. This is the way to watch this movie, especially with all the everything in focus shots. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think, and we'll see you later. Bye.